Hey, hello my friend, welcome to the channel. In this video, I want to talk to you about an art commission that I just completed that almost breaks me. That's because it was a complex commission. So in this video, I'm going to tell you all the behind the scenes steps on how I was able to manage the client's vision with my art style, which was kind of difficult because it was a little bit outside of my comfort zone as an artist. So it's going to be a great chat. Check it out. My name is Sergio Gomez. I'm an artist, curator, gallery owner, author, and co-founder of the Art Next Level program. And my goal with this channel is to make marketing and art business easy so that you can grow your art career, find new opportunities, sell more art, and spend more time creating in the studio. So if you like that, make sure you click on the subscribe button and click on the little bell so that you receive notifications of our future videos. Well, my friend, happy to be back in another video here with you. Yes, I just completed a new art commission for a large painting that was 72 inches by 72, perfect square, or 6 feet by 6 feet. It was something that, I love working large. If you know my art, I love working large. I love the challenge of a large painting. But this particular painting had something special about it that was a little bit outside of my comfort zone, which made it really, really hard for me to kind of like combine the concept of the collector and the client with my own style as an artist. So I'm going to walk you through the entire process, how I did it, how it worked out. Because at the end of the day, either you're happy or you're not. Either the collector is happy or is not. So I'm going to save that to the very end to tell you how it went. But so this is what happened. I was invited to create or asked, right, or hired, I should say, to create this beautiful art commission for one of my collectors here in South Florida. He invited me to his house. We talked about this beautiful painting because he loves my style. Him and his wife love my style. They already have other of my works in their collection. And they said, Sergio, we want you to create this painting for us. This is a painting that's going to be in our bedroom. So it's the first thing we're going to see every morning. So just starting right there, that puts a lot of pressure, right? The image that you're going to put in somebody's face, in somebody's mind as they wake up every morning. So that was the first thing. And then there were some very specific ideas about the painting that then I had to interpret those ideas and bringing into my studio and work on it, also making sure that they fit within my style. And that's where the challenge was for me, and how difficult it was for me to put this together. So what I'm going to tell you exactly kind of an idea of what the client said to me. He said, I want this painting again to be a painting because it's going to be in our bedroom. It celebrates my wife and I. It's a painting of love. Pretty much, we can encapsulate everything in one word. It's a painting of love. And this painting of love has to be happy, bright, joyful, colorful, right? We're here in South Florida, so color is super important here. It has to be colorful, uplifting, and specifically, there are some elements that we love to have in the painting. One is the living water, as it is described in the scripture. So if you read in the Gospels of the Bible, Jesus talks about him being the living water and providing the living water that never dries up, that never ends. So the element of the living water was a very important part of this painting, if not the most important part of this painting, this idea of the living water. And also this idea of life, this idea of joy, and the living water kind of God's presence as well, and depicting the idea of God's love within the painting. Well, that in itself, these are all concepts that, they're not necessarily visual, right? It's not, okay, I want a portrait of my grandmother, so I just got to look at the portrait of the grandmother. By the way, I don't like to do portraits, but just as an example. Or a chair inside of a house, those are things that you visualize, but things that are more conceptual in nature, that are also spiritual and faith-based, they are very difficult to really put together into a picture, into an image. So that was the big challenge. So I took the challenge, said, I'll do it. I think I can make this work. Because if you know my work, there are certain elements in my work that fit really, really well with the vision of the collector. My work, is a lot of it is faith-based, it's spiritual. A lot of people who see my work for the first time, the first thing that they say, oh, I can see the kind of like the spiritual aspect in your work. There's some ethereal qualities of your work that kind of bring me to that idea of the spiritual. So that was really important in my art. So that's a great fit, in that idea. Also, I like to work with light, which I see it also as the presence of God, this presence that comes down. So in my paintings, you will see in a lot of them kind of like this rain of white fluidity, almost like water rain in color white, which it always comes from top to bottom, straight down, because it just flows. I use very liquid paint for that. So that in itself, it has the essence of the idea of the spiritual, coming down to earth, coming down to us. So those are already elements that I could see in my work working already. So I had all these elements in my head. It took me a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, to just think about it. So first step, if I were to divide this whole, this whole process into steps, so you can see how I put it together. And this might be helpful for any one of you artists who are right now in the process of on a difficult commission, or you will at some point have to work with a difficult concept and figure out, how do I bring my style into that? The way I started to work with this, thinking about the ideas, the different elements, doing a lot of research, looking online for pictures of water, pictures of landscapes too. I thought, all these elements kind of have to live somewhere. Cannot just be floating around in the painting, right? I had to put them somewhere. So I thought kind of like the Garden of Eden that you find in the Genesis book. And the Garden of Eden is like this beautiful, luscious garden or place. So I'm like, well, I think that kind of would be kind of cool to have nature like in its prime, in its beauty, the element of water, perhaps some sort of pond in itself that will happen, and the water has to be in some sort of way alive, because it's the living water, right? So it cannot just be, a quiet lake. It had to be some movement in the water. And so as I began to kind of process those ideas, then I had to also think about, so what's another element, that can replace the figure? And I had an idea, but I'll tell you that in a second. So this is the first thing I did, is I went, got the materials, put the canvas together, started working on this painting, large painting. And the first thing I did, of course, after I gestured the painting, is I started with chaos. I remember, my client saying from chaos to beauty. So, okay, I'm going to start with chaos. So I started just, working out some chaotic elements in the painting, as you can see here in the picture, just randomness, just creating almost like a pattern. And in fact, a lot of my paintings, I started like that. I started with chaos. I typically do not know how the image is going to look like at the end, because I started very loose. So this was like the perfect way for me to get started. So after that, I started, working with chaos and creating those elements. Then I started thinking about the landscape. So that was my next step. Okay, so next step number 2, let's work on some landscape imageries. Once I had an idea of kind of what I wanted to do, then I started laying down the colors. I started with the sky, separating also the water and the land in the horizon line. Then working that again and starting to pull the imagery that started to look more and more like a landscape, where you can see the sky, you can see some mountains, you could also see like the water and a space for flowers. I wanted the water to be surrounded by beautiful flowers, because they have a garden and they're very proud of their garden. And in this garden, there are butterflies that come year round. Also, specifically the monarch butterfly that comes to their garden. So it's a beautiful garden that they have here in Florida. In the back of the house. So I wanted to include that, to kind of have this kind of like Eden garden place that was uplifting and beautiful and peaceful. So the painting started, as you can see in the picture, started very raw, very abstract in nature, and then as I continue to work on this landscape, it started to become tighter and tighter, meaning more realistic, even to a point where I look back and like a few days after, like, wow, I think it's becoming quite realistic, and I wasn't really expecting that. So that was kind of hard for me to decide what to do next, when it got to a point that the landscape was actually looking quite beautiful, quite pretty. But I was thinking, it's not quite my style. I like to combine those things, the abstraction versus, the representation. And right now I was kind of going all representation, not much abstraction. Started with chaos abstraction, now I was getting to representational. And it was becoming very colorful as well. So I liked that it was becoming colorful, but it was becoming too picturesque in my mind. Like, I think it's just like beautiful, picture postcard. So I had to start creating some elements that will start departing from that. So then I went back, work on the sky, create some dripping, start working on more of the details in the landscape, that let the paint drip, let the paint fall, start being so careful and just let the paint do its thing. And that's how I love to work. That started to now become more and more into my style, right? Because it was separating further and further from my style, and that's where I had conflict. But I had to pull back the painting back into my style, right? While still conserving the vision and the idea that the collector had for the painting. So as I'm working on it and creating these elements, I decide that the water is going to have like this ripple, and there's going to be like this splash, right, in the water. So that's when I began to work some like a splash in the water. Then I put flowers in the front and flowers in the back, so that also I didn't want this kind of beautiful pond or lake to look like it's far away, but like you are almost close to it, almost like right at the ground level or very close to it. So in order to do that, I had to put like bigger flowers in the front, some flowers on the left, and then the kind of like this splashing water. So once I had that element, like, okay, why is it the water splashing, right? What's it, what makes it splash? And that to me was like the symbol of the living water, right? It's water that's movement, that's in motion. And that's where I decided, okay, I'm going to bring the drip that I always use, kind of like that's the spiritual element that I've been using for years in my work. I'm going to bring that to drip right into this splash. But it's not like a gush of water that makes like a big splash, but rather just the subtle drip. And I remember because he told me about, his garden, and he said, his wife loves butterflies because they come into the garden and she loves the monarch butterfly. So that all of a sudden, like when I got to that point, like I think, what would be really good is to, since I'm not using the figure, which is typically the main protagonist in my paintings, the human form, since that is totally absent from this painting, I had to replace it with something else. Who's going to be the protagonist? And that's when I started thinking about the butterfly. And I have used butterflies in my work previously. Typically, I use the butterfly just as a silhouette, and I actually have a bunch of stencils that I have done of butterflies in different sizes because I've used them in different paintings. I'll show some samples here where you can see some that I've done in the past. And the butterfly to me is also a symbol of transition, a symbol of change, a symbol of fragility. This small animal, particularly the monarch butterfly, starts its journey from North Canada, crosses all through North America, and then ends up in central Mexico, where it has this beautiful habitat. And so that's the journey of the monarch butterfly. So it's how such a fragile animal can have such a journey. And that was also kind of an inspiration, right? And in this journey, they stop at my friend's house. Many of these butterflies stop as they cross here to Florida as well. So I had to think about this, and I decided to use then this butterfly as the more realistic element in the composition. In this case, replacing what I would normally do as the figure, and the butterflies becoming like the protagonist in the painting. So I did a mixture of the white butterfly, almost like also growing out or coming out of the water, of the living water, in white, flying towards the left because the drip was coming from the top. So at the end, as after I added the butterflies, I think the painting just kind of all of a sudden, boom, right? It was right there. It had my elements, it had my way of painting, it had my drips, my looseness, it had also those elements were highly realistic. And it was exactly what the collector had described. Now, the collector had not seen the painting. He only gave me the instructions, and he trusted I would do something really cool. So the day came when I had to go and visit his house and show him a picture of the painting. I couldn't bring the actual painting because it was too large. I wanted to first show him a proof of it on paper, on print, so that he could see it. And then if I had to make any adjustments, I could go back to the studio and make those adjustments. Well, I got that. I was kind of nervous, like, I don't know if he's going to like it. This is like a little bit of a departure from my other work. It's quite different. It's a landscape. He never said the word landscape. Is it going to work? Is he going to like it? Because right now it's very landscapey, It went into a full landscape with all this beauty and things like that, and those elements that I mentioned. So I went, I opened the bags, I pulled the print, and he's like, wow, this is different. But he said it with a smile. And that's like, the moment I saw the smile, like, oh, okay, I think we got it. And he's like, I love it. I really love it. Let me show it to my wife. He shows it to his wife, sends me a text. She loves it. It's amazing. Let's bring it home. So literally the next day, went, rented the U-Haul, brought it in the car, took it to his house. We hung it. And the most beautiful gift for me was that as him and I were hanging the painting, we put it in their bedroom, above their bed. It looks amazing, looks beautiful. It's the only thing that's colorful. It's high ceilings, big window on the side, so it has natural light coming in. As soon as we finished, him and I were in the room, and then we pulled back to see it. His wife walks in the room because she just arrived from work. And to see her face looking at this painting was the best gift for me in the world as an artist, to say, I think we did it. I think we hit the mark. And she was ecstatic. She totally loved it. They both loved it. Other people who were in the house came and they saw it. And then I started showing them pictures of the process, the picture that you have seen here. They were more amazed again of how it started, this whole thing with chaos, and then it ended as this beautiful painting. So in my book, my friends, this is the most colorful, beautiful, uplifting painting probably that I have ever done. It really stretched my style. It really stretched me as an artist. At the beginning, I thought I was not going to be able to pull it off, but I'm so happy I took the commission. I'm so happy I did. I really, literally, I was so focused on the painting for a whole month. I prayed before I started painting. I put my headset and go for it. Go to work. And I was so happy that at the end, the collectors were excited. They were happy. I was happy. I was super excited. And at the end, it was a win-win. So that was the process. I hope that also this journey, as I share it here, also helps you, in some way as you approach difficult commissions in your own art career. And if you want more of my help in your art career, speaking about the art career, or if you are in transition from a day job into a full-time art career, make sure to check out my program, Inside the Art Next Level program, where I share all the things that you need as an artist to make it in the real world and transition from a day job or a 9-to-5 into a full art career. You can find more information at theartistnextlevel.com, and also on the description of this video as well. Check it out. Also check out my freebie that I put also in the pinned comment as well, so you can download it and use it as well in your own art commissions. Have a good rest of your day, my friend. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye. But wait, before you leave this video, if you are an artist who wants to grow your art career and wants to achieve greater success, make sure you check out the Art Next Level program. You will find a link under this video. Don't forget to subscribe and check out the next video that we have recommended just for you.